The 2026 NFL Draft is now behind us, and we know the landing spots for dozens of Dynasty-relevant rookies. Some we like, some we don't, and some have us going, huh? My outstanding guest today is Andrew Cooper from Fantasy Alarm. He's going to join me to break it all down, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and what it means to your Dynasty teams and your rookie drafts. And that's next on Dynasty Compass. Welcome to Dynasty Compass. I'm your host, Jeff Blaylock, the other Jeff B from football. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in, whether you are watching on YouTube, listening on Apple, Spotify, or another favorite podcast platform. We are glad to have you here today. This is why this show exists, to help you become a better Dynasty manager, contend for those championships year after year after year. And I am just thrilled today to have Andrew Cooper from Fantasy Alarm here with me. Coop, it's great. I got to meet you out in Canton. I got to see you in 3 dimensions at the Expo last year. Hopefully again this year. It is great to have you on the show. Thanks so much for stopping by and spending some time with us today.
Dude, thanks for having me. We've talked about this before the draft, and it was like, why not do the Tuesday once all the chaos is done, right? All weekend I'm working on my rookie rankings, just updated my Dynasty rankings. We pop on, have this show, and then after I'm going to update my best ball rankings, and then that's here, man. I mean, thanks to the beautiful world of best ball, fantasy football can start right away, right? Like It's here now, and we're ready. So it's a beautiful thing. But first, we got to dissect this draft, man, because it was a doozy.
It was indeed. How was the draft weekend for you? I assume you were doing nothing, just sitting on the couch staring blankly at the television.
So that was Saturday for me. That was Saturday. On Thursday and Friday, I had quite a bit going on. We had the Sirius XM shows 2 hours before the drafts kicked off, 6 to 8, and then 5 to 7. And then I had a couple guest spots with the Fantasy and Frames guys, the Fantasy Points guys. And I also had to run our draft tracker. The thing is, I do all the write-ups before the draft, so I'm ready to go for the draft tracker. I got my mock draft. So the first couple days are always a lot of work. And then Saturday is when they say, okay, here, you know what? Relax, pick a couple names out from day 3 and kind of give us some information. That's where I got to kind of chill out, get some chores done, But overall, man, the draft is just so much fun. It's such a beautiful little oasis in the desert that is the offseason, just kind of get us back into football.
Yeah, who knew that just some guys reading out names for 10 hours would be such compelling
electric
drama, just so electric. Yeah, man, I love it. So, if you had to describe the draft in one word, you already used doozy, so you can't use that one again. If you had to describe the draft with one word, what would that word be?
Yeah, doozy is what it always is when it's happening, but the word I would use for this one, unfortunately, is disappointing. I mean, I had such high hopes. And the thing is, we did have a handful of guys that we liked. If you're Dave Kluge, your handful included like 175 players, right? Like,
yes. Yeah,
and you're fantasy wishing them all to the right spots. And we just didn't get a ton of that. And it's not even about landing spot. We just want more guys to go early. There's one thing that I use to kind of judge a draft, and it's not a proven metric. But for me, it's a good litmus test, right? I look to see where the first blocking tight end gets taken.
Yeah.
Like the first pure mauler, right? Like I call that the block line. And you go back through the last few drafts, and it's like there can be some debate as to who the guy is, but it's usually pretty obvious. Like when the Cardinals take Tip Ryman in 2024.
Yeah.
Like they have Trey McBride, they have weapons. This guy's an inline blocking tight end, right? That is a blocking tight end. Darnell Washington, Charlie Kohler, Gunnar Helm, these type guys, right? So historically, we usually get like 30 guys that go before, sometimes almost 40, right? The first blocking tight end, usually you would say, right, late third, early fourth, usually, right? And, when you look at the hit rates after those guys get taken, it gets pretty ugly. Like you look at when Darnell Washington got picked, and then you go through, man, there's not a lot of hits after that. Like you have Puka Nacua, you have a couple of those guys. I mean, Tip Ryman got picked, And the top scoring 2 guys after him were Bucky Irving, who obviously is great. And then the next best was Tyrone Tracy. Right. And then so I always kind of look at that, and it's a good way to judge again, you're not just saying, oh, this guy got picked before the blocking tight end, this guy got picked after, so just throw him away. But for me, it's a good measure of how quality the class is. Right. So in 2022, 36 players were picked before Charlie Kohler. And I'm talking fantasy relevant players.
Right,
so we're talking about QBs, wide receivers, tight ends. 2023, 31. 2024 was a weak class, 23, right? And we know from that tight end group, basically only Brock Bowers is startable. And then there's obviously other position players that are good. 2025, 39, and again, that's not because the blocking tight end got picked late. It's because a lot of guys were going early. This year, you know what that number is, man?
It's under a dozen, wasn't it?
It was close. 14.
14, yeah.
14. And here's the thing. You can make the argument. People will say, and that's for me, that's where the Jaguars took Nate Bokercher, right?
Yes.
But you can make the argument that he's not a blocking tight end, to which I say, okay, fine. The next 3 picks were Carson Beck, Max Klare. And again, Max Klare, I would argue not a blocking tight end, but got drafted like he was to a team that has Terrence Ferguson. But it doesn't even matter because the next pick was Sam Roush to the Bears to obviously be a blocking tight end. So you can extend that number from 14 to 17 if you want to. Who cares? It still indicates that this was a very, very weak draft where teams basically said, there's no difference makers left. Let's take the best blocking tight end. That's the thought process there. So, I mean, no matter how you slice it, pretty ugly in general. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's actually skip ahead just a little bit, talk about tight ends since we were just talking about them. We'll go back, pick up the other positions here in a bit. I'm with you. When I saw those blocking tight ends, multiples going off the board in round 2, I'm like, well, that is an indictment on the quality of the draft class because at first, you look at it, you say they're all reaches, and quite possibly they might have been available farther down. But as you see more and more of them going off the board, you're thinking to yourself, wow, okay.
Yes.
They would rather take a guy who is going to be a quasi lineman 30% of the time than any of these tight ends that I have ranked above the guy who went in the first pick of the second round.
People are dogging that's such a great point because people are dogging the Jaguars for their pick.
Yeah.
But then a bunch of teams did the same thing, right? Like if the pick of Nate Bokercher is so bad, then why isn't the pick of Sam Roush bad? Because Sam Roush, some people liked him as a pass catcher. I didn't. Very short arms. Only had 3 contested catches. Only had 3 missed tackles. He only had 1 contested catch. 3 catches versus man-to-man. Just not even really doing a ton of that. So I just look at a guy like that, and I'm like, well, this guy's a good blocker. He's probably going to be the next Josh Oliver. But then the Bears confirmed that for us because they obviously already have 2 tight ends on the team that are better at catching passes. So to me, the moment that guy gets picked, you can look back and say, okay, well, the Jaguars believed they were picking the best blocking tight end, and they actually did it right before those guys came off the board. So great point there, Jeff. We got to start calling Jeff Bell the other Jeff B.
he's tried calling himself that, but I got the phrase in the trademark process, so it's
okay.
Gonna
You're already
have
in there.
To be me. So
back off.
So yeah, so of the non-blocking tight ends, and even the blocking tight ends can have dream landing spots. They just can't necessarily be for fantasy. But what were your favorite landing spots for some of these tight ends this year?
Yeah, well, it was Kenyon Sadiq for about an hour. The Omar Cooper pick really hurt that one. Yeah. I liked it so much. I had it written. That was in my mock draft, Sadiq to the Jets, and I actually bet on that one, plus 2,000 odds. I was like, this could easily happen. And the thought process was that you go back through the history of Frank Reich, and you have to. He's been around for a long time, but you can pull out select seasons where he used a tight end as a slot receiver and had great seasons. Antonio Gates, 2014, 75% of his routes from a wide receiver spot and finished as tight end 2. Zach Ertz, with him, obviously, basically just played wide receiver, finished as tight end 4. And then with the Colts, Eric Ebron, 79% of his routes were run from a wide receiver spot, and he scored 13 touchdowns. Obviously, Andrew Luck was a big part of that, but he has a history of being able to use this big slot tight end. So I was like, perfect. Take Sadiq at that spot, or take Eli Stowers at 33 or 44, right? So It made a lot of sense to me, but then they took Omar Cooper Jr. So, which hurts. Now it's a head-to-head battle between those guys for targets. More on that maybe later, but I do like Eli Raridon to the Patriots. That one I do like. I'm a Patriots fan, but we have a history of Josh McDaniels also using 2 tight ends, right? We have him using Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez. One of the only times, maybe I've seen it twice, where a team has 2 tight ends finish in the top 12 in fantasy. And they were like 2 and 6. The other time being Goddard and Ertz, I believe. Ertz was great, and Goddard backdoored his way into tight end like 11 or something. But like we've seen that from him. The A.J. Brown trade, pending, possible, everybody's penciled it in. That could, all the P words you can think of for that trade. I think that it's probably going to happen, which will hurt that spot. Yep. But in the long term, I like this player. I like that he got the draft capital. I like that he went there early. And I guess I'll throw, since you asked favorite landing spots, I'll throw an honorable mention to, I do like that Oscar Delp got picked early, and he got picked to a team that has a converted wide receiver playing tight ends that's going to be turning 30 soon. So it's like, okay, this guy's got that type of ability. He's got that kind of build. He's a raw talent. Let's have him go. He's 8 years younger than Juwan Johnson. Go talk to Juwan Johnson about what it takes to be an NFL player with the skill set you have. So I do kind of like that one too.
Yeah, I like both of those. I actually love the New England pick, because that to me is exactly the kind of tight end who is the heir apparent. Yeah. If Hunter Henry were to move on, or they moved on from him. And with that also in mind, I actually I love the Stowers pick to Philadelphia, because this is another one of those situations where you have a tight end that is on what I believe is a 1-year contract. It was restructured to be cap friendly this year. There's a bunch of void years. And so Stowers could be walking into the Goddard role full time as early as next year. So that to me, and he was already my tight end 1. So you put my pre-draft tight end 1 on an offense that needs a tight end, at least in the future, then that's exciting for me. What do you think about?
Did you hear what they said to what Nick Sirianni said to him? Or it might have been Howie Roseman said to Stowers when they drafted him? Mm-mm.
No,
he said, we got a real good history here from the number 2 tight ends, from picking tight ends in the second round between Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert and now you. So let's keep this thing going. So they basically told him exactly what you're thinking. They didn't say, oh, we're going to use you differently. We said, this is what we do. We picked a tight end in the second round. They become our tight end.
Yeah, it's funny because from a dynasty perspective, I'm sitting on a bunch of 107 and 108 picks in my drafts, and once Cooper was picked in the first round, my heart sank, because there is really nobody I now want with these picks, because the consensus top tight end is now tied up in a tangle of slot routes with a bunch of other guys who run out of the slot very, very well, including Garrett Wilson. And then the Stowers pick comes along. I'm like, well, there's my 107 or 108, because that's the guy I now am excited to draft for the first time in a while. I'm excited to draft somebody in the back half of round 1.
I've got all these Jets fans. Jets fans can be happy. I think they got the values they wanted. That's fine. I don't like what they did personally, but I'm not going to, because I like the players, so I'm not going to argue against it. But I will say this: it increased the variability for everyone. And it's bad for everyone. And as you point out, that goes for Garrett Wilson. The best thing, if they were going to draft a wide receiver, the best thing for Garrett Wilson would be if they were to draft a big split end out wide, right? Even if it were Denzel Boston or Malachi Fields, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, those guys went later, so it would have been better. Because if you take a guy like that, then you use that guy becomes your T. Higgins, your Mike Evans, your George Pickens, your Devontae Adams. And then that lets Garrett Wilson be Chris Godwin, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Puka Nacua. He can be the slot flanker, right? When you draft all these guys in the slot, now he has to go play out wide. That we've seen guys, good players, be put in that role, and it's just much harder. It's much harder to face the top corner, have your foot tethered to the line. It's not easy. And yes, if you're a Hall of Fame player like Mike Evans or Devontae Adams, then yes, it's easy. But look what happened to Brian Thomas Jr. when he was asked to play that role. It is very difficult. Marvin Harrison Jr. has had a very difficult time doing it as well, because it's the hardest role out there. So Garrett Wilson, his job may have just gotten a little bit harder in an offense where Frank Reich loves to dink and dunk it. Not to mention now he's under contract till 2030. So we have this head-to-head battle between Sadiq and Omar Cooper Jr. to be the second target on the team for Geno Smith when they also have Breece Hall. This no matter how you slice it, one of those guys, like between Kenyon Sadiq and Omar Cooper Jr., one of them is about to have 4 years of pain.
Yep.
Right?
Maybe both of them. And then Mason Taylor, too. So you've got yet another guy.
Taylor got destroyed. Mason Taylor under the floorboards. People are trying to justify that he's fine here. In what world? In what world? Because he's forced to be an inline blocking tight end. And it's not just him versus Sadiq. It's him versus Sadiq versus Omar Cooper to be the second target after Garrett Wilson. The draft could not have gone worse. He's the biggest loser. I hate to say it, the biggest loser of the draft by far, because he basically just got made into Drew Sample. Yeah. So I hate to say it. I hate to say it, but that's literally what happened.
Yeah.
You know, even at least Michael Mayer had a chance to be the second target with Brock Bowers because he was going up against Trey Tucker, and you know what I mean, and that crew like. It's Kenyon Sadiq, him versus Kenyon Sadiq, and then the winner of that gets to battle Omar Cooper Jr. and Garrett Wilson. That sounds terrible. For targets from Geno Smith, that couldn't be worse.
Yeah, from Geno Smith or an unknown rookie quarterback next year when they draft one in the first 5 picks of the 2027 draft.
And both those guys have a 5th-year option. So the only solution for Mason Taylor is to leave as soon as possible.
Which honestly, let's be honest, if you're on the Jets, that is kind of the goal. But
that's kind of a move.
They did manage to extend some people that broke a lot of fantasy managers' hearts, mine especially with Breece Hall. I was poised to enjoy him somewhere else, and now I'm poised to have him as my RB2.
Right. If people want a little hope for Mason Taylor, there are guys that have done that and had a resurgence later in their career. Martellus Bennett was stuck as the blocking tight end for a long time. Got out of that, had a couple fantasy relevant years. Delaney Walker was stuck behind Vernon Davis for 7 years, and then went to Tennessee and had 3 top 5 seasons in a row. So it's not Dallas Goedert was behind Zach Ertz until Trey McBride was technically drafted as an inline tight end for a bit there behind Zach Ertz as well. So it's not over, but you don't even have to roster him right now, in my opinion, because of how long it's going to take for him to get a change of scenery. Because it's like they're not going to trade Garrett Wilson. Trading Garrett Wilson would solve all our problems.
Yeah. And Breece Hall, they could start trade him too. That would solve some of my problems on some of my
fold
rosters.
the Jets.
This show we pile on the Jets and the Browns a lot, but I mean, they earn it, and I just think those two franchises are the poster children for why there should be promotion and relegation in American football, like there is in English football, because these two belong in a different division.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'm getting to the point where I am starting to believe that the Cardinals belong in that group.
They're getting there.
They've been a team. The crazy part about that team is that you look at like the fewest playoff wins by any organization, right? And the Cardinals are tied for dead last with the Texans, but the Texans didn't become a team until 2002, and the Cardinals have been a team for 100 years. So like how are the Cardinals always escaping these? Like the Browns, the meme with a guy with his arms, or I think it's actually Jesus in the meme, and he's just getting hit with arrows. You know what I mean? Like that's the Browns protecting everybody from realizing like, wait a second, the Cardinals are maybe the worst franchise in all of major sports if it wasn't for the Browns. Yeah,
the Browns are our blocking tight end here in this.
Yeah. They're Hodor, man. They're holding that door.
Yeah. So obviously the Jets ended up being a nightmare landing spot for Sadiq. Are there any other tight ends that just went to the completely wrong place as far as you're concerned, at least from a fantasy standpoint?
I mean, this one doesn't hurt me because I was completely out on this player, but Sam Roush obviously couldn't have had a worse landing spot, right? I mean, they're loaded up on weapons. They have because of the 5th-year option, Colston Loveland's contract directly overlaps with his over the next 4 years, right? So like Sam Roush, people, again, I see people trying to spin this as like, oh yeah, good organizations pick good players. It's like doornail under the floorboard, right? So also, I can answer nightmare landing spot and also most confusing pick for tight end, Max Klare. I was confused by that. This is a player that the thing is, he showed he could be a pass catcher at Purdue. Then he showed he could be a blocker at Ohio State. Very well rounded. We were hoping he would go to a team that could maximize that type of player. Dolphins would have been good. Because we've seen Bobby Slowick, he worked with Shanahan for a long time, and you see what they do with George Kittle, and it's like, yeah, that'd be great. But instead he goes to a team, excuse me, the problem with the landing spot you run into is Terrence Ferguson just runs routes, So how do you decipher that room?
I don't know if there's ever been a 5 tight end set used in NFL football history, but we may see one now with the Rams because Sean McVay, being a fairly recent convert to multi-tight end sets, went from hardly ever using them to using them at the highest rate in the league last year, and that seems to be a continuing pattern. Their solution for replacing their aging wide receiver is just to add another tight end to the formation and let them run around out there and distract the linebackers so Puka Nacua can take a screen pass and run for a touchdown.
Yeah, if it has been used before, it was used by Arthur Smith at some point.
Yeah, yes. So the 4th tight end could score the touchdown. Yes, we are actually very glad as fantasy managers that Arthur Smith is now at Ohio State, where he is clearly generating draftable tight ends because that happened.
We're protected.
They're protected. They are protected. It does, though, speak between the addition of the blocking tight ends, all those early draft picks for them being a general indictment on the class. It also, to me, is a sign that this evolution of offenses to multi-tight end sets, 12 and 13, and in the Rams' case, 14 personnel, is going to be a continued trend this year. We're going to see even more of it, and fantasy managers need to get out in front of that with some of the assets they have and just be ready that the wide receiver 3 position is disappearing as a staple of modern NFL offenses.
No question. Yeah. And it's definitely the defense's fault. I mean, the defenses for a long time, offense was complex and defense was reactionary. And finally Fangio and these guys figured out a way to make defenses much more complex. The cover 6, because like a lot of times you would have a quarterback where you got a play call and there's 2 different plays. There's 2 different sides of the play. And you read the defense and you say, okay, is it single high safety? Is it 2 high safety? Okay, single high. I'm going to throw to the right. And if it's not open, I'll look back to the left. If it's 2 high, I'm going to throw left, right? Well, the cover 6 basically puts cover 2 on one side and cover 4 on the other side. So you turn and you look one way and you're like, oh, wait a second, this is cover 2. I'll throw back to this side. And then you turn and throw to a spot and they're playing cover 4 over there. And that's not even getting into the complex setups like palms, all these if this, then that rules on releases. It's getting so much more complex. And the response by offense is, okay, if they're going to go small with these nickels and 2 linebackers and use a safety like a linebacker instead of 3 linebackers, then we're going to go big and we're going to focus on the middle of the field. So that's where we're living right now. I'm sure it'll rotate back at some point, but for the time being, this is the world we live in.
Speaking of wide receivers, what were some of the favorite landing spots you had for wide receivers in this draft?
So one of them, and I want to get your thoughts on this, Jeff, that made my rankings very complicated, is that going into the second round, I was thinking to myself, okay, the Steelers are going to probably continue trying to find a slot receiver because they got sniped on Malachi Fields. And then they took Jeremy Bernard in the second. And I was like, okay, nice, well-rounded player. Could end up a Van Jefferson type, maybe, can do everything, but maybe not great at one particular thing.
Yep.
And then the next wide receiver taken, but 30 picks later was Antonio Williams, right? And that was like, okay, this is a player I like. This is a landing spot where I like Chig Okonkwo, but it is what it is. There's slot snaps open. And Terry McLaurin, say what you will, he's not a target hog.
Right.
He is a guy that does more with less. He gets like 110, maybe 120 targets. Like the year he finished like wide receiver 8, I think he had like 112 targets. Nothing crazy. So like it's a great landing spot. So now I'm torn. It's like you got this team that was prioritizing this role. They gave him the draft capital in Jeremy Bernard, but then you got this guy Antonio Williams, who maybe got the better landing spot. So where do you live on those 2 guys? Just those 2.
I at this moment, just looking at the draft at the board and looking at the players that we have, looking at the depth charts that we have today, I do like Williams' spot better because I like that offense better. and the competition for those targets, I think, is a little less. You've already nailed it. I mean, you don't have a true ball hogging alpha in the Washington offense, and so to me, I like Williams there. I like Jeremy Bernard to Pittsburgh. I thought it was a good pick for them, but I don't like that offense, and I don't know what it's going to look like because we now have today. It's being recorded on the Tuesday after the draft. We just had news today that the Pittsburgh Steelers dusted off a really old rule out of the rule book and put a I'm not even get the name right because I'd forgotten it even existed. It's a basically first right of refusal tag on Aaron Rodgers. So we've got clearly an issue over there. There's not a good plan B in Pittsburgh for a quarterback, and so the prospect of then bringing in one in 2027 or signing a Russell Wilson type, it just doesn't excite me either. So you say Williams or Bernard, wherever I had them before, it's Williams now because I like that offense better. I like that situation he landed in a little bit better.
Yeah, that's been a big debate for me, those two, and I originally had Bernard ahead. I think I'm gonna settle on Antonio Williams. I think it's just a higher upside play. Unfortunately, it does hurt my guy Chig, but again, in fantasy football, we got to remember that betting on or against rookies is one of the best ways to create leverage. So I'll be drafting both those guys with the notion that like somebody has an opportunity to get 100 targets here. Because Terry's not going to get, I mean, maybe he will, but Terry's probably not going to get 150 targets at this stage.
Right.
So somebody can get 100.
Yeah, and then you also still have Luke McCaffrey kicking around kind of as your wide receiver 2-ish there. So that to me is another opportunity that Williams has, that there's no target hog number 1 and there's no real clear number 2 either in that offense. So when I look at where rookies are landing, that's one of the things I'm looking at is where's the direct competition for the role that they have? And then secondly, where is it otherwise? Because maybe the role they have is going to have to be expanded because there isn't a guy who can fill a slot role or be the X role or be, the flanker role. And so those are things that I try to look at. Any other good landing spots for you? Anything else that excited you when you heard the name called or at least won you money because you'd already picked that that's where they were going?
Yeah, there were a couple of those. I had the Ravens taking offensive line. We won that bet. I had 2 quarterbacks going in the first round. We won that bet. I had Kenyon Sadiq. We did really good on our betting article. One of them, when the Vikings didn't take a safety, that floored me. I was like, they were all that you could pick anybody you wanted. That one we lost. But yeah, we did okay there. I will say for fantasy, Chris Bell to Miami, intriguing because people can say he slid due to the injury and they got targets open all over the place. Caleb Douglas pick really confused me. Right?
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yes.
I have no idea what that's about. Yeah. And then for real life football, I think the Giants did a really good job with Malachi Fields. They traded up. The Caleb Douglas, people are actually saying that the Dolphins were going to take Malachi Fields. And then the Giants traded 3 picks to move up to the spot right before them. And they took Malachi Fields. And then the Dolphins just panicked and took Caleb Young.
Yeah. That's
the kind of narrative people are saying. But for a real NFL standpoint, and the Malachi Fields pick is actually good news, in my opinion, if you have Malik Neighbors. The opposite of what we talked about with Garrett Wilson. Right. Malik Neighbors now gets to play that slot flanker role, right? And Malachi Fields will go be the big split end on the outside, and Isaiah Likely can operate in the short area. If that team had picked a slot wide receiver, that would have been a nightmare. Instead, they picked a boundary guy, and everybody can kind of have some hope still, including Malachi Fields. Except Darius Slayton. That's really bad news for him. And Darnell Mooney. They like those guys. That's the last thing you wanted to say.
Any nightmares? Any guys just ended up in just flat out a terrible place for you from a fantasy standpoint? And you did make an important point a second ago that teams, of course, are drafting for actual NFL needs, not for fantasy purposes. So some of the things that confuse us as Dynasty analysts are perfectly normal for NFL analysts. So there may very well be some spots that were great for real football and terrible for fantasy that may be on your nightmare list.
Yeah, definitely. I would say number 1 is got to be Xavier Thomas. I think with that pick, you got to understand, again, let's talk about the blocking line, right? Yeah. Once that blocking tight end line goes, to me, the well of difference-making ball movers, people that catch passes or run the football, are gone, and now teams are starting to look at special teams as part of the equation. I think that's exactly what the Xavier Thomas pick was. I think that the Bears are going to have him return possibly both kicks and punts, and that'll be fine for leagues that have points for that. But I think that being behind Rome Odunze, who has a 5th-year option for him, Luther Burden, Colston Loveland, it's just not it's not a good spot. Colby Young, people are loving. People always just say, "Oh, all that matters is what quarterback they play with." I mean, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are under long-term contracts. Like, how long you're gonna have to wait for him to be the guy? I don't know. It feels a lot like it's going to be another Jermaine Burton. And then I want to get your take on Brennan Thompson. Apparently, Mike McDaniel loves this guy and was like, there's a video of him saying that if they pick him at some point during the draft, he'll take his shirt off, which he didn't take his shirt off, but he was very excited about the pick. So I don't know. It just seems very crowded over there. I was hoping they would trade Quinn Johnson, but they didn't. So just feels like he's in a big heap of guys that we like at the bottom.
Let me just hit Colby for just Colby Young. I see him as kind of the Yoshivas successor if Andre Yoshivas moves on. So we'll see if that were to play out, and we'll see if Cincinnati stays out of the trend of three multi-tight end sets, because then that would take that position off the board in favor of presumably healthy Eric All and either Gesicki or whichever blocking tight end they drafted the 2027 draft.
Yeah.
With respect to Thompson, this is not my favorite landing spot. I mean, I obviously love guys to go to good offenses, but there's too many guys in this good offense already. This to me was like the Rams picking up another tight end. It's like, you've already got 5 that can catch the ball. I don't know what the 6th one does for you. Maybe it makes you a better actual football team, but from a fantasy standpoint, it is a nightmare. Here in LA, McConkey, to me, is that the alpha guy, whether he gets the targets or not. Sometimes he's kind of the sacrificial alpha guy. Johnston would have been a good guy to trade. And then you've got Trey Harris also there that some of us have invested in, and we're wondering what to make of that. And then you just got the gadget guys that the Chargers like to roll out there, the Lambert Smiths and the Darius Davises of the world. And so there's a lot of competition for time on the field, a lot of competition for targets. Not my favorite spot for Thompson. So I'm with you. He's a downgrade for me.
The other thing you got to bet on is Mike McDaniel not getting a head coaching job again, because he already basically confirmed the Browns offered it to him, and he said no to be the OC for the Chargers. But how long? If the Chargers go and win a couple playoff games, we're hoping, how long until somebody comes knocking? Probably next year. Right. So, you got this coach capes up for the guy, and now he's on a 4-year contract with another team.
Yeah. And the turnover in offensive coordinators has already been a nightmare this year. We've got 18 new play callers, I believe, for teams this year, which is difficult to try to trace out and tease out. But then, you throw in that successful coaches tend to get gigs. I'm glad personally for him. I'm glad McDaniels chose to stay to go to LA rather than to take on the mess that is the Cleveland Browns in that situation, inheriting a quarterback room with 5 people in it, none of whom really should be starting in the NFL. You say what you will about Deshaun Watson, he has not been a really good NFL starter in years, and the track record of guys coming back after 4 years essentially of not playing quarterback is not very good. So it's a small sample size, admittedly, but it's not good. What really surprised you? What pick did you just kind of go, for a wide receiver this year? And you got some options. There's a number of them in my book, but we'll see which one you go with.
Number 1 with a bullet for me. And again, there's a really obvious one that I'm not going to pick here, but Omar Cooper Jr. to the Jets. Really, I was shocked by that. I mean, I thought they were trading back in to take a quarterback, right? Get the 5th-year option on a quarterback, but you just took a big slot tight end. You have an inline tight end. You just took a big slot tight end that is supposed to operate in that area of the field. You have Garrett Wilson. Then you circle back and you take another slot wide receiver. I mean, it just felt like overkill. And the Browns and the Jets both did this which we talk about bad organizations, like everyone is pretty unanimous. When you're a bad team, load up on the trenches, get your quarterback, and then go for weapons and hired guns like cornerbacks, and pass rushers and free agency, whatever you can do. But to load up on weapons when you don't have a quarterback feels like the formula for frustration among diva type positions and players that we've seen. And this team already has a bunch of guys, Garrett Wilson and I almost said Le'Veon Bell, but close enough. Breece Hall, like they're already upset with like their usage and their workload. And then now you just bring in a bunch more pass catchers when your quarterback is Geno Smith. Like it just feels like somebody's son is playing Madden. And I think they've been accused of that. So not good.
Yeah, and of course you talked about Garrett Wilson having to now take on basically the top guy everywhere he turns, and so we can add some frustration on that front as well. We may end up with a whole bunch of frustrated people on a 4-13 team that will get to screw up next year's draft with some premium draft capital. Yeah,
they said it's one of the weakest drafts of all time for like position players, and the Browns and Jets take 4 of them. Yeah, it's like, come on, guys.
Losing teams find ways to lose. Ever more creative sometimes. This was just basic fundamentals. You awesome, drafted shiny objects when you really needed some bulldozers.
Yeah.
Well, at least they didn't ruin another running back, either of them. So that was good. Let's look at running backs for a second. Obviously, this was not a good year for running backs, and not very many of them, other than the 2 first-round talents, not many of them went early. And I think a lot of teams realizing they can just pick off who they want farther down the line. Are there any guys that you thought of that are great landing spots from a fantasy perspective?
So the interesting thing about the running back position is we didn't get the draft capital we wanted at all. But in terms of landing spot, it was virtually all the teams, and this never happens. Like before the draft, us fantasy folks, we sit back and we say, oh, these would be the best landing spots, right? And it's always like the Chiefs. I know the Chiefs took Kenneth Walker this year, but the last like 5 years it's been like the Chiefs. And then those teams never take a running back. This year, they kind of all did.
Yeah.
They just waited until the end of the draft to do it. So you talk about like the landing spots that we liked, like we did like the Seahawks, and they did. That's got to be number 1, right? Because they took Jarian Price and they took him in the first round. After that, it got sketchy, but like the 49ers behind Christian McCaffrey, people wanted that landing spot. People wanted the Vikings to take somebody, and they took Dylan Claiborne. People wanted the Ravens to take somebody. They took Adam Randall. People wanted the Commanders to take a player. They took Katron Allen. I mean, like, I guess the the people talked about the Giants. The Titans took Nick Singleton. Like, people were talking about the Giants taking running back, and they didn't. But that was like the one team that people said this would be a good landing spot that didn't take somebody. I mean, most teams that were considered good landing spots took guys. The Broncos took somebody. Like, it's hard to say that the landing spots were bad. But we would almost prefer the draft capital to the landing spots. Like the hit rate when you get down to round 5 and 6, we're bad. Yep. It's not good.
Yeah, I'm wondering if this is just part of the. It's funny to me because you've got on the one hand you've got a run on blocking tight ends, you have a run on being big, you've got a run on trying to force the middle of the field to have a lot of action because these shell defenses have taken out everything else, and then yet. Either because it's an indictment on the talent level or it's just this understanding or desire not to pay running backs with first and second round money, Arizona notwithstanding, which put them one step closer to relegation, as we were talking earlier. It's just funny to me that they didn't take some of these guys. And that doesn't seem to be – I'm wondering if that's a permanent feature now for running backs, that we can mock guys in the second and third round – all we want, and we're going to see them go in the 5th and 6th rounds from this point forward.
I think what this is we just hit the bottleneck, right? Like you take a hose and turn it on and then pinch it and then let it go, right? You're going to get water coming out and then you're going to hit that air bubble and then you're going to get a ton of water coming out. That's what COVID and the NIL did to the running back position, where you had this normal pipeline, and then COVID hit combined with the NIL, which, let's be frank about what this is. There are now 2 professional football leagues. That's it. Simple. Like, people hate when you say it that way. When you're a professional, it means you're paid to do something, right? You and I, no matter how much we get yelled at or how wrong we might be, we are professionals in analyzing fantasy football, right? Like, we get paid to do it. Like, even if you get paid, in my opinion, even if you get paid $25 or whatever, an article out there, you're a professional, because that's you're getting paid to do something. So the moment, and Jaden Baugh from the Gators is getting paid $1.3 million. You know what Bucky Irving's getting paid this year? 1.2. Jaden Baugh is going to get paid more money to play for the Florida Gators than Bucky Irving gets paid in the same state to play for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Baugh reportedly gets unlimited use of the team plane for as long as he stays at the university. Private jet. He can fly wherever he wants. Like, has a better contract than Bucky Irving. You know, the Mike Washington was a top 5 back in this draft. And with the rookie wage scale, you know what he gets paid this year? $1.3 million. Same as Jaden. Like, you know, and the other thing, there's less than 40 guys. I looked it up. There's 38 running backs in the league that make more than $2 million. So if you can get guaranteed to get paid $300,000 to stay in college for 1 year and then maybe get more money next year, take the money. Like, and that's what we're seeing. So next year, in the next 2 years, we're going to see these guys run out of eligibility, and then here they come crawling to the NFL. And then now we're going to get better drafts. But this was the bottleneck year. No doubt about it in my mind.
We're going to get better drafts with older players. So that will be another interesting test of the model, is that now we've got 23 and 24-year-old running backs coming out instead of 21 and 22-year-old running backs. But, you know, talking about paying running backs and running backs getting paid, we now have out of the draft the highest paid running back in the NFL, and he has as many NFL carries as you or I do. And that to me is really something. What you know, we talk about loving draft capital, so I guess we have to love this draft capital. I just don't love the situation he goes into. Where are we on our wonderkind Jeremiyah Love, the 101 in fantasy drafts, fantasy rookie drafts, including Superflex coming up into this weekend?
Just got to take him one, brother. You just got to take him one. Just forget the rest of it. You really just have to. In my opinion, both formats, single QB and Superflex, you just take this guy one. The hit rate for running backs taken in the top 10 alone, forget 3 overall, is extraordinary. Even the bad players, even the worst possible guys you can think of, which as of right now, Ashton Jeanty had one, like, he had 1,300 yards from scrimmage, and that's still one of the worst ever. That's the high hit rate we have here. Trent Richardson had 1,300 yards from scrimmage as a rookie, and then they ended up trading him. He was probably one of the biggest busts. You still could have traded him in your dynasty leagues if you didn't like the way he looked as a rookie, because he went out and had 1,300 yards from scrimmage. You know, like, the hit rate here is astronomical. Players that get this draft capital always get a massive opportunity. Like, I really don't care. He could have got drafted to the Raiders. The Raiders took him, and they had both those running backs. Just based on, it would be a terrible decision by them, but just based on hit rates and the amount that they're spending on the player, you just draft the player. So simple as that for me. Like, guys that get this hit rate, and he's got the profile too. You know, like, you just draft him. And if you lose, it's a bad beat. To me, it's like poker. Like, if I have pocket aces and, you know, an ace and 2 kings comes up on the board, I'm going all in. You know, and if somebody pulls a royal flush and I lose, then so be it. But that's the kind of hit rate we're talking about here. So I am just going to go. End of story. RIP to all the other running backs on the team. You know?
Yeah, including the one they picked up, Tyler Algier, who was finally getting his shot at being the lead guy, and now he is in a committee with a bunch of other people behind the number 1 pick.
Crazy, man. It's just
And for Algier,
you don't see it coming, you know?
For Algier, it was even more embarrassing, I think, because James Conner was the guy who announced the pick on day 2, not Algier. So he's even behind Conner on something that's nothing to do with football. So
I will give him credit. So I was shocked by that. I was like, oh my God, I hope he's not announcing the first pick, you know? But so James Conner announced the pick, but then when they had him up there, it made sense because I had forgot that he went to Pitt. Yeah. So that's why they picked him. That's why they picked him. So, but that's tough. I mean, when they signed to Algier, I was like, all right, here we go. Algier versus Benson. And then they brought James Conner back, and I was like, oh no. And now they've drafted Jadarian Price. That's what I'm saying is that, like, it might be a bad pick. Yeah. Michael Bidwell is the owner of the team, and he also makes himself the team president. That's one of the worst situations in all of football. Jerry Jones situation. Yes. The 3 longest tenured GMs are all owners. 2 of them are owners of the team, and the other one's Mickey Loomis, who also I think is a pretty bad GM. But
yes,
like when you have a guy that's just meddling like that and having these opinions and falling in love with certain players, like you got to insert a football man in between. I love that the Chargers finally did that because the Spanos family got so much flack, and they finally said, let's bring in Jim Harbaugh and let him run everything. And I think it's going great.
Yeah.
So that's what the Cardinals need to do. Like, I know Bill Belichick's probably old and way out of it, but like you need to find a guy like that where you can just say, you're going to do everything now, and we're going to stay out of it because it's been real bad. And for Arizona, for the Jets, for the Browns, Woody Johnson like decides what color uniforms they wear every week. It's like, dude, take a step all the way back. Like way back, and just let people that actually know what they're doing do that stuff. I remember one time he announced the jersey combination on Twitter, and the fans were like, "No, we're cursed in those jerseys. You need to change it to different jerseys." And he changed it to different jerseys, and they lost 41-3. Like the jerseys are. There's no curse, dude. Your organization's terrible.
Yeah, burn them all because the jerseys clearly are not good. The jerseys are not getting it done in East Rutherford, New Jersey.
You have $1 gazillion. Hire somebody, man. Hire somebody that knows football. And that's Michael Bidwell, man. The Cardinals, they frustrate me, but you know what? Like, we just got to, because the thing about this pick, though, Jeff, where we can, like, if the Cardinals didn't take him, somebody else would have in the top 10.
Yeah,
that's guaranteed, right? So just draft him.
Yeah, and if you don't have the 101 this year and don't get him, you may very well be able to pry him off of whoever does and is disappointed when he only has 1,200 yards of offense because he's sharing a backfield with 13 other people on an offense that is not very good at moving the ball. Jacoby Brissett put up some great numbers last year. If you took away garbage time, he did not put up very good numbers at all, and that's kind of where Arizona is. I've seen at least 4 too early mock drafts for 2027 for the NFL first round. And guess who's got the first pick in every single one of them? That would be Arizona.
There it is, dude. Yeah, I mean, their over-under for wins is 4.5.
Yeah, which, and that feels generous. I would slam that under.
One of the key indicators for me with bad organizations, we talked about it with Mike McDaniel, is the decision of your coaching, like what your coaches do. And one of the biggest indictments is if your offensive coordinator leaves to take an offensive coordinator job somewhere else when that job was on the table. And this isn't even the first time we've seen that. Like Drew Petzing left to go to the Lions when he didn't get fired, right? Yeah. Like his contract was up and he was like, I'm done. And we saw Clint Kubiak do that too. Clint Kubiak had a 1-year deal with the Saints. They scored 90 points in the first 2 games. They didn't fire Clint Kubiak. He was free to sign anywhere and he chose to leave. So, like, that to me, big indictment on your club. But enough bashing on the Cardinals.
For now.
For now.
For now. The other guy you mentioned from last year, Jeanty, being a disappointment for a lot of guys who spent, a lot of fantasy managers spent an early first-round pick on him. The Raiders did add somebody who was fairly popular, fairly high up on a lot of our pre-draft boards, and that was Mike Washington. Do you like that? Do you not like that? Or was that what you would consider our segue into the nightmare landing spots question?
It's definitely not ideal. I mean, it just makes him a handcuff plus, because I don't think there's anything that Mike Washington does better than Jeanty, like in any phase of the game.
Yeah.
They might try and split the work up, but I think what they should do is just do a pure handcuff situation where when Jeanty's tired, and granted, for what they do, they picked a good guy for it. So Clint Kubiak, what he does a lot of zone blocking is kind of his main thing, right? And for those that don't know what I'm talking about, one cheat code for watching football is at the start of every play, watch the offensive line. If everybody moves in the same direction, steps in the same direction, that's probably a zone block play. If you have guys forcing open a hole, or if you have somebody pulling, especially if they're pulling, that's man-on-man blocking. And basically with zone, you're moving everybody the same way. The running back has to find the hole. With man-on-man blocking, like a power, you know the hole is D-gap, and the guy just shot out of a cannon into that spot. I think what you're going to see is kind of like what we saw with the Seahawks last year, which is like Kenneth Walker comes out. He runs a lot of creative stuff in the zone blocking schemes. And Rick Dennison, the guru they brought with Kubiak, does a great job with offensive line. And then maybe for, when they spell him, you come out, and when teams stack the offensive line, then you run a man block scheme where you want a big guy shot out of a cannon, which was Zach Charbonnet. But this guy is literally 100th percentile size speed combination. 223, ran an insane 40.43 or whatever. Yep. So I think it's a good mix. I think Jeanty's going to be fine. And I think if Jeanty gets injured, Mike Washington has the opportunity to have big upside. But we need to see this offense actually take a step forward. I think that they're moving in the right direction. Like, paying for Tyler Linderbaum, bringing in Kubiak and Dennison, like, I like it. I think the Raiders are trending up.
I do too. I just, when you look at the draft, I just wish they had picked any of these wide receivers that might have been able to come in, because, I don't know how successful Jeanty and Washington and Bowers are going to be against the stack boxes, because no one's going to be afraid of Trey Tucker, Jalen Naylor, and Jack Besh. And I'm a Jack Besh stan, and I'm still not thinking that this is a wide receiver core that's going to make anything easy on this offensive line or these running backs.
Over the last 2 years, here are the wide receivers that have run the most routes over the last 2 years. Number 1, Jamar Chase. Number 2, Jerry Jeudy. Number 3, Trey Tucker. He's just out there running pure cardio, man. I'm with you. I was shocked. I was shocked that they didn't draft another wide receiver. And you know what? There were a couple perfect fits. Like, Kubiak runs this scheme where he's like, you're trying to open up deep passes, right? You're trying to, like, Jackson Smith-Njigba led the league in 40-plus yard catches, even more than Alec Pierce. And Rashid Shaheed did a great job of that with his scheme with the Saints. And in 2023 with the 49ers, Brock Purdy had the highest yards per attempt season of all time. So I'm looking at it and I'm like, dude, Raiders, Chris Brazzell, Ted Hurst, just take one of these field stretching guys, and it would be a perfect landing spot for them and the perfect scheme for them. And then they didn't do it, dude. And then Ted Hurst went to the Buccaneers. Ew, terrible. Like, I should have mentioned that one. Like, now they have like Buka and Godwin and Jalen McMillan and Kadon, and it's like, we missed that. Just like, to your point with Mike Washington, if he got picked where he got picked, but to the Commanders, we would love it. So it is a bad one.
Yeah, we mentioned, Kansas City has kind of been at the top end of our dream landing spot for running backs for quite some time now. Do we like that Emmett Johnson landed there in Kansas City?
Nah, I think across the board it's kind of annoying, because he's a good pass catcher. He seems like a smart player. Like, the ability to catch passes and find yourself in the right spot is a positive IQ trait for running backs, in my opinion. But, like, best he's going to be is, like, their version of, like, we just want Kenneth Walker to do everything. Once they got Kenneth Walker, it became a bad landing spot. So I don't know, maybe over the long term as Kenneth Walker, but Kenneth Walker, despite looking old, because of the shaved head, like, he's not old. He's 25. Like, he looks so much older than he is. He's not old at all. So he's a deceptively young fellow there. So I don't know. So I don't know what, it's not a good landing spot. There's really no way to slice it, if you ask me.
So, good advice from Coop. You want to look older, shave your head.
It's well, depending. Sometimes if you shave it, you look younger. It's an interesting The shaved head move is a real head scratcher.
There you go.
No pun intended.
There you go.
But for Kenneth Walker, I don't even think it's just a shaved head. Like, you look at Kenneth Walker, he looks like doesn't he look older than he is? He does. So it's not just me on that.
Yeah. Is there any other spot that we haven't talked about for running back that surprised you the most, including how far down the board they fell before they ended up somewhere?
There's one more when we get to reaches, we can talk about that one. So
all right,
let's back pocket.
We'll do that. Well, let's hit quarterback very briefly because I don't think there's a whole lot to talk about here. This quarterback class is going to go down basically on what Mendoza does. There's been obviously a lot of chatter about the Rams taking Ty Simpson at 13. Where are you in terms of, does that make Simpson now a definite first round dynasty pick, middle of the round, and talking super flex, not otherwise? Or is this just the head scratcher for someone who's not bald in Sean McVay and the Broncos there in LA?
Yeah, he has to be a first round pick. I think he has to be. Back end of the first is where I have him ranked, but we have to be honest about draft capital with quarterbacks. Insanely predictive metric. Insanely, right? Like, the hit rate for second round even and beyond is so bad. Drew Brees is like just got the world on his shoulders in terms of like the total QB1 seasons. Right now, just in the league, quarterbacks picked in the second round, you have that are starters. Mm-hmm. You have Jalen Hurts, you have Geno Smith, and you have Tyler Shough. Those are the three guys. And the leashes for these guys can be super short. I mean, Davis Mills is putting up pretty much the same numbers as Tyler Shough, but when you lose, the team drafts another quarterback. Like, if you're a Tyler Shough fan, more than anything in Dynasty, more than stats even, more than being a starting player in your Dynasty lineup, you need to root for the Saints to win games. That's the only thing that can truly protect quarterbacks picked on day 2 and beyond from a horrible fate. Is if they win, then the team won't be in a position to draft a quarterback. If the Saints lose a bunch of games and an Arch Manning or somebody's sitting there, they're gonna take him. Like, Kellen Moore has to protect his job.
Yeah.
If the Saints win 3 games this year, then that's gonna happen. Vegas says the Saints are gonna win more than that, and I think they will. So Tyler Shough, not a player I hate, but just keep that in mind. And that goes for this draft. Like, Ty Simpson being picked in the second round, great news for him no matter how you slice it. Horrible news for everybody that fell. So I'm fully with you, Jeff, that it's Fernando Mendoza and then who cares? But Ty Simpson at least is in that spot. Everybody else really, really is in a super uphill battle. I mean, the best fantasy quarterback in terms of career points scored picked in the third round is Russell Wilson, and the next best is Matt Schaub, which, like, Matt Schaub he was fine, but like, that's Schaub, the second.
Yeah, he was someone you could start. Yeah, he was someone you could start in Superflex, but that's about it. That's all I can say about him.
That's what I'm saying. That's the second best third round pick. In the fourth round, you got Dak Prescott and then a bunch of junk. In the fifth round, brother, the best fifth round quarterbacks, like, they're not even existent. I was looking at it the other day. I can't even remember the names, dude. Like, you have to go back to like Fran Tarkenton to find like an actual real like difference-making quarterback picked in the fifth round. The fifth round is a disaster. And then, of course, you got like Tom Brady and Brock Purdy, but like the vast majority. I mean, you go back through the last 25 years and take the quarterbacks that finished top, 10 in fantasy, right? Like, so we're talking 250 players. More than half of those players were picked as either the first or second quarterback in the draft. It's just, and I went back to look at, I was like, okay, let me see if I can find some years where both the first and second quarterback busted and the third quarterback hit. I can only find one. And it was the year that Jay Cutler was drafted. And I don't even remember the quarterbacks that were picked before him here. Let me pull them up just so you can get an example of what it looks like. But like, historically speaking, you either have classes where every quarterback hits, like Jalen Hurts was picked behind Jordan Love and Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow and even Tua, or you have classes where The top guys hit, but the other guys don't. So, and here's the thing about, okay, so I got the Jay Cutler class here. The thing about this class is that Vince Young actually did have a QB1 season, technically, but I consider him a bust, and you do too. So if you wanted to be real technical about it, there's probably no answers, but Vince Young, it went Vince Young at 3, Matt Leinart at 10, and then Jay Cutler at 11. And that's one of the few examples where the QB3 hit and the top 2 flamed out. So for me, I just can't bring myself to ever rank the QB3 in any draft at 1. I just don't do that. Just because historically it doesn't work like that.
Is there anybody in this quarterback class who's not in the first round pick this year in the NFL? Any of them that you take a flyer on, or are you just out this year, even in Superflex?
In Superflex and deeper, so oddly, after that whole spiel that was just doom and gloom, right?
Yeah,
that was just, I bring a lot of darkness, but then we find silver linings, right? There are 2 guys that got like the perfect landing spots, I think, in my opinion. Number 1. And they're both the rushing guys. Taylor Green, right? Taylor Green, you want a guy that's just a freak athlete and has no passing ability. Like, where do you put that guy? How about we put him in a room where everyone hates the quarterbacks in there, or at the very least, they're insanely divisive. Deshaun Watson and Drew Sanders. I mean, that is like the most toxic room of all time. And then you have a coach come over from one of the most successful rushing quarterbacks in the history of ever, in Lamar Jackson, like literal QB1, led the team in passing touchdowns one year somehow, MVP seasons, right? Like, if you're going to pair this guy with somebody that can figure it out, you'd put him with Todd Monken and that gang and that crew. So Taylor Green, definitely worth a flyer in very deep Superflex leagues. And then Cole Payton too. Like, if people are going to write articles about Jalen Hurts and the problems he's making and the issues, if you want to put the fire to his feet as an organization, bring in a Russian quarterback. And now, instead of like Joe Flacco versus Anthony Richardson, which it was always apples to oranges. Yeah. Like, one guy's going to be better at passing, one's better at rushing. Now you can actually say, hey, Jalen, by the way, we brought in this kid. Don't worry about him. He does all the same things you do. Don't worry about that. Like, he literally does all the things you do. Let's just see how you do. And we pay you a lot of money. Let's see if maybe he can replace you, like, as far as the landing spot for Cole Payton, I like that one too. So, like, those 2 guys, very deep long shots, but like, hey, why not? Everyone hated the Jalen Hurts pick and said he would never replace Carson Wentz, who got legitimate MVP votes the year that the Eagles beat the Patriots. And then that happened. So, like, hey, why not?
Yeah, things change fast here in the NFL. Things changed even in this hour. We went from bashing the Browns for 45, 50 minutes, and Coop just called them an ideal landing spot for somebody. So,
there it is. We're back. Full circle, man. Time is a flat circle.
Time is a flat circle. Is there anything else in quarterback world that surprised you at all, including guys who didn't get drafted or guys who just plummeted much farther than we might have thought?
Yeah, Ty Simpson going early, bad. Garrett Nussmeier, I would have drafted him earlier than where he went. Not to start for me, but just because I think he's going to be the next like Davis Webb. I think he's a very smart kid. He's very polished. I bet he can run the heck out of a scout team. And a guy like Davis Webb kept getting contracts in the NFL, never to start, but basically to be a coach and to be a scout guy and do all that stuff. And they asked him about that. They're like, why don't you just become a coach? And he's like, do you know how much coaches get paid? And everyone's like, not really. He's like, you know how much QB coach gets paid? And he goes, because the veteran minimum is $1 million. Yeah. So yeah, like, and I think Garrett Nussmeier could be that kind of on that kind of track. And his dad's an NFL coach, so he has a path right into being a coach at some point. So like, I think that when you get to that part of the draft, like, why wouldn't you want that guy in a room? Yeah. And this is not even a quarterback I liked. I basically called him Davis Webb or, Tim Boyle before the draft. A guy that, has all the skills, but none of the traits. I was surprised he was a 7th round comp pick, but once again, Chiefs bringing some of the right guys in the building, and that's why they're the Chiefs.
Yeah, I think it's very smart advice there, Andrew. When you talk about with these lower round quarterbacks and their success rate in terms of big fantasy success is almost non-existent, but yet there are still 32 backup quarterback jobs in the league, and these quarterbacks tend to play every once in a while. Now, maybe years go by, but if you've got a big enough bench, then having someone like a Nussmeier is somebody that you can pull out when he starts and stick him in your lineup in week 12 when 6 teams are on bye and your quarterback's hurt, and he'll give you 12 or 13 or 15 points, and that's all you need from him. So that's a guy to pick up.
There's 2 types of guys right now that I view that way, which is, number one is easy, international pathway players. You're allowed to keep an extra player in camp if you have one of these players. So like not drafting one of those guys to me is irresponsible, or just like sign one, bring somebody in. You can bring an extra guy in, bring him in, right? What do you only have 90 plates in the cafeteria? Like bring in the free guy, right? Then the other one is you get to have, thanks to the 49ers starting Christian McCaffrey at quarterback, or whatever they had to do there. Like you're allowed to have an emergency third quarterback active. Yep. Like have a third quarterback. That's it. That's it. You're allowed to have an emergency player, one player. If you have one, have one. And so why wouldn't you want Garrett Nussmeier, a polished player? Like if your backup is some like true, like even, if you're going to if you have like Anthony Richardson or somebody who's like not reliable, but is a project, make that person inactive and have Nussmeier be active, because he is, at least in my opinion, very polished and serviceable. So felt like, way too much talking about a 7th round comp pick quarterback, but Brock Purdy was a 7th round comp pick quarterback. So
yeah, Tony Romo was an undrafted free agent. So there are examples. It doesn't mean that any one of these guys is going to be that guy, but there are those guys,
no doubt.
So let's talk about the thing that we've wanted to get to all this time, which is our reaches, because there weren't very many of them in this draft that we could talk about. Maybe just 2 or 3. Now this felt like the draft. Going back to my first question to you, if I had one word to describe the draft, my word would be reach. I think that's what this felt like to me. So I'm sure we've covered some of these guys already, but who did you just see as the biggest reaches in this draft from an offensive standpoint?
Let's just start with the obvious ones, which were the 49ers players. And they have a history of doing that, and it has a history of not panning out. Yep. So I will still draft DeJon Stribling because I liked him. People I trust, like Matthew Harmon, liked him. But like based on virtually every spreadsheet that there is out there, it was a reach. And same with Kalen Black. The guy didn't even get invited to the combine. And when you define reach, it's like in your fantasy draft, single QB regular draft, your buddy takes Josh Allen in the first round and you're trying to talk to him about it. And he goes, "What do you mean? This guy's great. I got a great pick. He's going to be the quarterback 1. And you have to explain to him, it's not that you picked a bad player. It's that you could have got that player in the 3rd round. I think JJ Zachariason recently explained it as, you're going out and you're paying $15 for a $10 coffee because the coffee's so good, but you could have just had the coffee for $10, or you probably could have got it for $5. You know what I mean? Like you actually probably could have got it for $5 if you just waited. So it's like right now, and they might make us look stupid. Brad Holmes made everybody look stupid when he picked Jahmyr Gibbs and those guys, but like right now, those look like reaches. Also, the Caleb Douglas pick has to be mentioned because now we're getting pretty obvious indication that they got sniped and they panicked. Yeah. Right. I worry that maybe the Jeremy Bernard pick has a little bit of that to it.
The same too. I agree.
Yeah. Where they basically were like, man, let's just get one of them now. And then they took Jeremy Bernard and then another wide receiver. That happens in rookie drafts too. Yeah. When you take, like, let's say the 2nd round comes around and you take a quarterback and then no one takes one till round 5. Happens in every expert mock draft, because in mock drafts, you know what I mean? You know how we do it, dude. We're like,
yes.
I'll get one later. Yeah, I'll screw it. I'll just, so like you feel like an idiot. And I think maybe there's a little bit of that there. And I'm not even going to mention the Jaguars pick because the more I think about blocking, Marlon Klein, I don't see the appeal there. I think I don't think Marlon Klein should have gone ahead of Max Klare in any planet. I didn't like that pick either. So there's a few of those, quarterbacks. It's really even hard to get into it because I don't think they were really drafted all that early. I don't get why Jacoby Lane was picked by the Ravens ahead of Elijah Surratt. And the Ravens also have like a number of times where they've double tapped a position and the second guy is always better.
Yeah.
Like 4 times that's happened with tight end with them.
Yeah.
4 different times. And they drafted 2 tight ends again.
Yeah, it's going to happen 5 this year.
Yeah,
I
so
think
like,
the second one's better this time too.
It's just like, maybe their philosophy is like, let's take the safe guy, then we take the risky guy, you know, but like, I don't know, dude. Feels like a playing a little too conservative in a league where you got to get aggressive.
Yeah, the Caleb Douglas pick to Miami, Jeremy Bernard to Pittsburgh, both of those struck me the very same way you were. It's like you're on the clock in a draft and a 1 minute to pick somebody, and you had 3 guys in mind, and they went bang, 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 the 3 picks right in front of you, and then you're left looking at the list of players trying to come up with something, and the clock hits 1 second, and you have to click on a name, and that's what they got. I'm sure it didn't work that way, but it sure felt like it, given that there was other talent that fit their schemes better that was available, at least in my eyes. I'm not a pro scout. I'm certainly, not someone who makes draft picks for a living. That's not what I get paid for. I get paid to analyze, not to make the picks. But those, I agree with you. Those just struck me as a class leading odd. And Stripling, I mean, as someone who does dynasty rankings, he's tough because now I'm having to reckon with his draft capital. I still think he's the 22nd best wide receiver in this class, but now I'm having to do something with him because I can't ignore that he is the 30th overall pick in the draft.
I got him ranked top 20. I can't ignore draft capital that much.
Yeah,
I can't top 20 at all positions, not just wide receiver. Like I can't ignore it to that degree. I'll put guys ahead of him that I liked better that went on day 2, but like you have to give them the benefit of the doubt. And especially because unlike Caleb Douglas, like we do have people like Matt Harmon legitimately called him like his second favorite, not best, but one of his favorite players besides Casey Concepcion. So like, I'm not going to completely bash that. I will say one other thing that we're going to potentially see is that like, there were a lot of day 2 trades that were wild. Like teams giving up 3/3 to move back up in the second. You know what it cost the Jets to move back into the first round? A 5th round compensatory pick. So it's basically like while everybody was panicking, the Jets moved back up into the draft, from the second round back in the first round, and they gave up pick 179. And then the next day, everybody went home, went to bed, and woke up with all these big plans. And teams were trading 3/3 to move up. It's like, I feel like the Jets alone, you can't call that pick necessarily a reach because they paid nothing to do it. And it was jarring the next day because I thought like, damn, it's going to cost you nothing to move up now in the second round because it cost the Jets nothing to move up. But no, it cost you a lot to move up, a lot. The Giants paid a lot to get Malachi Fields, a 2nd and a 4th, basically, to take him.
Yeah, I wonder, Coop, if the Pittsburgh was a cautionary tale there because of what happened with them and Mekhi Lemon. That when teams saw the guy they really wanted and he was still hanging out there, they did whatever they could to get that pick and just lock that up rather than wait for him to fall, which to me added to the whole reaches situation to begin with is that when I'm a believer you get your guy in fantasy, even if it is a reach of a pick a little bit, but some of these just sort of that guy probably would have still been there when it dropped down to you. I think this reactionary league that we love so much overreacted and tried to out-clever itself at the same time, and we end up with the draft. And you throw in a draft class that ain't that great, and you end up with what we ended up with on day 2 and day 3.
Throw in another key contributor that they changed the pick clock to 8 minutes.
Yes.
10. Yeah, that's meaningful.
Yeah,
when you're trying to make phone calls and maneuver, like that's big. I think they were feeling that.
Yeah, you saw a broadcast team that knows better that couldn't manage an 8-minute clock, and they don't have to make any calls. So some of these other things, I did not like that move to an 8-minute clock. Yes, it made for better television, but it did not make for a better draft as far as I could tell.
It hurt I mean, and again, as someone who loves the draft, I'm okay staying up. So
Yeah,
Even
I'm
as
in the
an East Coast, even as an East Coast dad.
Yeah, I'm a mountain time zone guy. This stuff ends early for me, so,
you're fine, man.
I'm quite content for NHL playoff games to go 3 overtimes because it's still before midnight over here.
I'll tell you, I've never seen I've never watched the whole Portland Trailblazers game.
I haven't either. So
they start at like 10 at night, dude. Like it's just they're supposed to start at 10 at night. NBA they start at like 10:20, so it's not happening.
Yeah. I lived in the Eastern time zone for a number of years, twice in my life, and I don't know. I can't. I just cannot. I've got to be at least Central Time, but I do like Mountain Time a lot. The only thing with Mountain Time is that you never know when something is actually on because they never tell you. They tell you things are Eastern, Central, and Pacific, but it's like we don't even exist out here.
Yeah, of course.
Anyway, value picks. So we've talked about the head scratchers. Who really kind of swooped in and got something great for not trading up and not doing the kinds of things that cost them a lot to get there?
Yeah, I would say I liked the Eli Raridon pick for sure. As far as getting him at the very end of the third round there after a bunch of blocking tight ends went, I thought that was a great pick for them. I liked, and this is a player, you can tell this is a good value pick because I didn't really love the player going in to the draft in Zachariah Branch.
Yeah.
He's a little small. I didn't know if he's going to be an every down player. But the Falcons, they have a big split end in Drake London. They have a big tight end in Kyle Pitts. They have inline tight ends like Austin Hooper, Charlie Warner. They can afford to have like a smaller guy that maybe he's just a part-time guy, or he can play flanker and be off and never have to deal with the jam. Like, as far as a landing spot and getting they didn't have to trade up to get him. Like a third round Zachariah Branch, I thought that was good value for them. Panthers getting Chris Brazzell, I thought some people had him as a first round pick. And again, for them, they whiffed on Xavier Legette. They hit on Tedero McMillan. They're trying to figure out, like, Jalen Coker seems like a rock solid guy, but like you only want to, since you have rock solid, you might as well go high risk, high reward and look for maybe like a guy that can stretch the field. Chris Brazzell is exactly that. Like, if he doesn't pan out, whatever, you have Coker, but now you've got this exciting guy that can come in and play on the outside. And he's got the size and speed. I thought that was a really good pick for them. The running backs, it's really hard to say because they fell so far that it almost feels like they're all just kind of, is there any running back for you where you were like really liked him pre-draft and he went to because they're all value picks. So like a guy you really liked that you think got a good landing spot maybe?
Well, not really, just because of the overall situation. I did like where Johnson ended up, even though they do have Walker, and there's a chance Walker gets 80%, 90% of the work, and there's nothing there. But look, for me, it's upside too. I mean, this guy can catch passes. Right. Walker's not really known for that. He can, but that's not his thing. So we do have some opportunity there. But going back to Branch and Brazzell, I mean, those to me were two of my favorites as well. I love the landing spots, even though I do not see them as everyday players. But if you look at the Atlanta Falcons, I mean, you name the key guys for them, but the other wide receivers are Jahan Dotson, Olamide Zaccheaus, Dylan Drummond, Devin Tompkins, Casey Washington, and whoever Chris Blair is on my chart. I don't know who that is. So apologies to Mr. and Mrs. Blair if you are watching this. Your son is wonderful. I just don't know who he is. So that's one me, not him. That's me. So, Branch has a shot, man, at getting regular rotation and even not on gadgets. Now the question is he may be a track star running routes for nothing. But that to me gets him some playing time. And then Brazzell, Carolina really needed somebody who could take the lid off the defense so that Tet McMillan's not constantly facing the cornerback and then, oh, hi, safety, how are you? Exactly. I think that's going to be really helpful for him. Again, somebody I don't know can be an every down kind of player, but you pegged Legette. I mean, that's the guy that I think he can knock out of the starting lineup. Yeah,
Legette, the problem with Legette, man, his fundamentals so poor, especially he jumps every time the ball comes to him. I've only seen that a couple times. Preston Williams had that problem. There was a player that used to play for the Panthers a long time ago that actually went to the Patriots that I can't remember his name now, but he would do the same thing. No matter what the play is, he would jump. And I've got tons of clips of it from Legette, even on like slants. And you get the real killer, not to mention you're making it harder to catch the ball, but the real killer is Yak. They talk about staying grounded. AJ Brown does a good job of he only jumps when he has to. You get no yak because you lose all your momentum. And like Leggett, just if I don't know if that's even something he could even learn. And it sounds like based on the moves they've been making, they don't think so either.
Yeah. I forget who it was. They were talking about the science of when you leave your feet versus not leaving your feet. When you're on your feet running, you're running with the earth pushing back against you. When you're in the air, you've got these little molecules of oxygen and nitrogen and carbon dioxide pushing on you, and there's a big difference between a handful of molecules and the earth pushing on you. So I don't understand Leggett's technique either. You jump up in the air to catch the ball at your chest when you could have just done that. And I'm not obviously not an NFL receiver, so there may be reasons for that. But I think Matt Waldman, our guy, was also all over that. It's like, this is just not a formula for success.
I think it's a mental thing because it seems like he has to be doing something at the catch point, and maybe sports psychology can help get over that. But like until that changes, I don't know. He needs a coach that can really has success fixing that particular problem because it's a deal breaker.
Yeah. Well, let's turn toward home here. Is there anybody that you're really excited about drafting in round 1 of your rookie drafts, or are you like me and trading out as fast as you can?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely looking to trade out. I would say that for me, I would say just simply that Casey Concepcion at 5 in a single QB or 6 in a super flex, that's the last guy I feel really comfortable taking because Jadarian Price makes me nervous. And then I have to decide between Kenyon Sadiq or Omar Cooper Jr. And I like them both and you got to rank them back to back. But one of those guys is probably going to have a very difficult time finding targets. And they only gets dicier after that. So really KC is the guy in the round 1 where I'm like, great. Like if I have a top 5, 6 pick, I'm just going to take whoever best available is and be happy with it. After that, I'm trying to get out of there. I do not want to in a single QB league. So just take Mendoza out. And some people are just ranking Mendoza at 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 because they're like,
got to go somewhere.
Just like don't take, give yourself a shot and don't try and, roll the dice here. But like, I'm trying to get out of those other picks. And if anybody loves Jadarian Price or Sadiq or Omar Cooper or Denzel Boston or whoever, I'd say fine. Like that's fine. Like, if you love that guy, then trade out from 8 or 9. But like that's where I think it gets really sketchy.
Yeah. How about round 2? Any guys there that you're really looking to draft, or any really good values you see there?
I'll definitely be drafting Eli Raridon, I think, and even probably some Oscar Delp. Also, I think from what I've seen so far, Malachi Fields can be ahead at a pretty decent price. And excuse me, I think that spot is not all that awful either. So, I'll probably dabble some Elijah Surratt too, I guess, but probably not really. Eli Raridon is probably the guy I'm most excited about taking there.
Yeah, I seem to be gravitating toward the tight ends, at least not the ones that block, but the other ones that are available down there in round 2. Because I'm not real wild about the receivers or at this point the running backs, given the draft capital and the situations there. And it's really difficult for me to say that this running back I really liked 5 days ago, I now really like today, because I don't. Yeah. But what about later rounds? Because sometimes the key to Dynasty is to find that first round talent in round 3. Are there any of those kinds of guys in this class that you see in Dynasty that in round 3 or later you're going, this is the guy I want to leave this round with?
Yeah, not really. I mean, so like just outside the consensus top 24, I've never been a big Khalil Shakir guy, so I'd be willing to take a shot on Skylar Bell in that range. Both Ravens tight ends, I actually like Matthew Hibner, and we all know Josh Cuevas. It's like the second guy ends up being the
second guy.
Like, Hibner can make things happen. Like you go and watch the highlights. Like this is not a blocking tight end. Like in the past, the problem has been they take a blocking tight end like Charlie Kohler, and then they circle back and take Isaiah Likely as a pass catching tight end. I think this time they didn't do that. I think both these guys are pass catching tight ends. And Hibner's kind of interesting. Both of them are though. Like I'll take Cuevas with my last pick too. And then I will also just take Adam Randall. Just because it's like, if we're already down into mystery boxes, like, just take the converted wide receiver who's like a physical freak. And, we all know Derrick Henry's winding down at some point, probably eventually. Maybe he'll just play forever. But Adam Randall, at least you can make the argument that he's like a freak. Eli Heidenreich too is a pass catcher, I guess. I'm just at a certain point, I'm looking for very unique skills. Who has a unique aspect that could blossom into this crazy thing? Because a lot of these guys are probably just going to be special teams or next man up type guys. So who has like one unique trait that could turn into something that is special?
What would you say, looking back on 3 days of the draft, 2 days in which you're trying to do 17 things at once while you're on air and managing your website and other things, and day 3 when you just had a chance to reflect, what was your favorite moment out of the entire draft?
Easily, I could pick all these like heartwarming moments and the crying and the hugging the parents, but I definitely, as a Team Chaos fan, gotta pick when Howie Roseman completely pulled down the Steelers' pants in front of all of Pittsburgh. They had Mekhi Lemon on the phone. They had him on the phone, and they're literally playing some like Renegade Sticks music video. And then Howie Roseman swoops in, steals Mekhi Lemon, and then they have to take Max. I ain't sure, and it's like a fine pick, but I mean, that's what you love about the draft. You want people that watch draft day every year. Like, that's what they want to see. They want to see like chaotic trade, knife in the back. Well, the all-time knife in the back move taking the Steelers guy at their draft in Pittsburgh live on air for everyone to see. That's awesome.
Yeah, being a Cowboys fan, I can't necessarily take that one, but that was
you helped.
A golden moment.
Hey, you helped in that, right? You had a little part in that. So I know you gave him to a rival, but still, like, you guys had a part.
Yeah, no, it was definitely played a part in that. Yeah, I go with one of the crying moments. Actually, 2 of them. I think they're right together. They're in the 7th round, which is the Cincinnati Bengals using the Pat Tillman pick to choose the first guy coming off the board from Navy, and then Heidenreich being able to not only come out and have the full NFL experience, while he is also on the phone, incidentally. He said he was talking to a team about an undrafted free agent contract when his name got called, but also because it was in Pittsburgh and that's who took him. So he got to get the sort of home team experience there. So I thought both of those were really terrific, outstanding kinds of moments. There's moments when the NFL rises above itself and actually, when your 7th round picks are probably not going anywhere. So why not make a really good statement with them when you have the opportunity? And I love that both teams did that.
Great call, man, dude. So much fun, and also very fun player. Like, you could see it. You see a little bit of that, like Danny Woodhead in there. Obviously hardworking guy, but this guy's got pass catching chops, so you never know.
Yeah, he's one of the guys I will target in those late rounds because why not? He's got a unique skill set. He has high upside. He doesn't have the numbers because he played at Navy, but why not? And if you ever wondered whether a guy had the work ethic to make it in the NFL, you don't have to doubt it with Heidenreich. He definitely has that. But Coop, this has just been outstanding. Thank you for taking time today to hang out with me and do this. Before you go, since we didn't cover it earlier, can you tell everybody where they can find you and all your awesome work? Whether it's on the webs or on SiriusXM or wherever else you are plying your trade these days.
Absolutely. So Fantasy Alarm, where most of my articles live, and on Twitter at Coupe Fiasco. I always share whatever is free from my writing on Twitter or Reddit. And then, of course, I have everything behind the paywall, from rookie rankings to dynasty rankings that are updated already to best ball rankings, which will be up by the time this is posted, most likely. We have all the premium content that you want to see there, tons of betting stuff. And not just that, but Fantasy Alarm, I mean, we have one of our writers has won Hockey Writer of the Year 3 different times. We've got NASCAR writer. Our guy Mike Iannone wins the MMA thing himself. That's the hard part about taking his picks, is he's always winning himself. I'm like, you got to let someone – he always takes down like the left hook, and he's like, oh, yeah, I won again. I'm like, you got to settle down. Jake Perry on PGA, James Grande and John Impemba on NBA. Like, if you're a multi-sport athlete, I mean, you can just get the football stuff, of course, get the draft guides. But if you like playing different sports, we got a little something of all that for you. And you can catch me on SiriusXM, channel 87. Our show is weeknights, 6 to 8 p.m. I'm on Thursdays and Fridays. So check that out. I got plenty of content flying around for you guys. And thank you so much for having me here, Jeff. This is the first time we've chopped it up on a show, even though we've met before, but I always love hanging out with the whole crew, dude. You know, Dave Kluge, Joy Wright, Bob Harris. I mean, Joe Bryant is just such a good guy, man. Yeah. Like just classic good guy, you know? So shout out to the football guys. You got a good crew. Yeah,
couldn't be happier to be hanging out with those guys on a daily basis.
It's the best.
It's just amazing. I wake up every morning and go, am I really a football guy?
Yeah. I left Jeff Bell. I left Jeff Bell out on purpose, by the way, specifically. But the rest of those guys, dude, love those guys. Yeah, I was just kidding. I love Jeff.
No, of course.
Such a good crew, man. It's a good crew.
You know, when you're talking with one Jeff B, it's kind of hard sometimes to mention the other one, but we are hive mind. Jeff Bell and I, we travel together a lot, at least in the figurative sense, as a pair of Dynasty guys or football guys. So
that's a good thing. He's a sharp guy, man.
He is a really sharp guy. Well, I thank everybody else who has been listening or watching through this episode. I hope you learned a lot today and you are armed better for your fantasy rookie drafts, some of which are probably underway as we speak. Perhaps you are on the clock. So hopefully something that Coop said today saves you from a Jeremy Bernard or Douglas pick that Miami had, and maybe get you something more inspired than those guys. Please please subscribe, all the things that we ask. If you got a question or even just a comment, if you'll leave that on YouTube, that's always really helpful. I respond to all of those personally. If you're on Apple, if you could drop a 5-star rating and a comment or a review, that would really help this show grow. And we will be back next week with another episode of Dynasty Compass.